Hey guys, join me as I go through some projects and follow up on different things and basically go through projects. This is more from a project management standpoint, but this is valuable for anybody to watch because you'll see how this flows through. Okay, and this one, what was great is I had a notification that came up. Let me just show you this unread. Excuse me. And the notification was if it basically was notifying me of this task that I set up. Again, that's one of the reasons why notifications are great that way, is because you can have a task that will remind you of what's going on. So I had a reminder here for follow-up. Now again, looking at this project, this is a not started project. So last we've got is sent quote to the client, and we're following up. And as a project manager for this one, this is what I'm responsible for. It's up to me to do the follow-up, or I can choose in some circumstances, and if this works better for you, to then assign this to the sales rep to continue to follow up. And that can be done in a couple different ways. Since this all interconnects, I can go in and see Clever Light Media is the company, and I can see that I've been sending a quote to Lindsay, so I can come back to this lead. Even though this isn't Lindsay, I can make a task down here at the bottom to help follow up with them and let the salesperson that originally created this and worked on this. Now this is something that I created, so I'm actually the salesperson in this case, but that's not always the case. So that's a great example of how this is all interconnected, and how as your responsibility and your motivation desire should be, hey, I want to help this client move forward to the next stage. In this case, they asked for a quoted project. We gave them a quote. That quote process worked with I worked with Jasper, and we went through and helped figure out what the details are, what we could do with this, what we could estimate. We did put some time on this, and that's fine. So what's the next step? If we continue to follow up and they say, yes, let's move forward with this, or hey, not this one, let's do a different one, then this project could go a couple different ways. It could go from not started to work in progress, or we could go completed or archived in this case to kind of take it off our plate if they decided not to go this direction. And so that's kind of how you'd handle a situation like this. And yes, you can track your time on this. We want to see what time gets put into different things. And the goal here too is that, let's say this client, as a new client, changed their mind. So to be honest with you, this project is more based around 3D and using AutoCAD, which is not something we really do. So we try to give them some solutions, but I'm going to follow up with them and see if there's a different thing that we can work on in the future. And so in that case, let's say they come back and say, I want to do something different. We kind of look at it and see, well, if we can recoup this time that we've been putting in kind of working with them, that'd be great. If not, we're not going to necessarily have them start out with a subscription model and immediately deduct those from there. But we're just looking at this and saying, gosh, we put it in, and it's usually not much time. Usually it's under an hour or an hour or two, somewhere around there. And we're just looking to see if we can kind of make up for that with our next quote, to make sure that we're making up that time and keeping our profitability high. So that's a good note about this one right here. Let's continue on to the next one. So in this stage too, I should say, at my point, what I'm going through, I'm kind of looking at where does my attention need to be placed right now. And I'm also going through and answering questions and comments about projects. So usually when I kind of come in, I'm at least at this point, where the stage I'm at, is I'm going through notifications and chats to follow up and communicate about things and see if people have seen my responses and have responded, or my comments and responded back to me. And so I'm going to evaluate those things because those are more immediate and want to respond to those. And then I'll come back to look at projects themselves. So I'm just going to click on this next project. This is a Bio One Omaha hoarding story. So I can see that Jack and Ren are working through this, and that's great. Perfect. So there's not much needed for me on that one. I'm just following that project. I'm not really an active manager on that one. Particle health. So this is a great question, and this is something that I can answer. So this is a client situation, or client spot. Oh, that doesn't exist. That's weird. Let me go look at this a different way. So we're in the client section talking about this client. They have these hours here. They're marked as active. The last time we had an invoice for them was 15 days ago on February 1st. Is their subscription still active? I have a meeting with their new person to discuss videos and want to know how to navigate this, since we do not offer such a low hour plan anymore. And I'm going to come down here and look at invoices. And we did do an invoice on, and this is something you might not be able to see. This is something for those that have that access. So like Joyce is managing the finances, would be able to see this and respond back. So From what I remember, we kept this client on a grandfather plan. Their account is active at 10 hours per month. Last invoice was February 1st. So I can comment on that, give him the information that he needs in this case. So Joyce could go through and talk about that. And this is a special case, but it's a good example of how we communicate and work through challenges and problems. As we work more and more in the future with clients, you'll be able to see what subscription they're on. In this case, they're on a custom. They've got 10 monthly hours at $55 an hour. This is an old plan, and so we've kept them on this one. So that answers that question for Philip, and so I can go on to the next one. And the other thing is, if there was a next step for this, basically the next step is for Philip to look at it. I don't have anything else that I need to do. I don't need to follow up with this. But if I did, if there was a clear next step that I didn't want something to fall through the cracks, I could come down here and put a task for myself. Oops, I passed tasks. I could create a task to remind myself to come back and look at this. But that's not necessary in this case. But that brings up a good point. What you'll see we try to do as a project manager is we're looking at trying to keep it seamless and not let anything fall through the cracks. And I like to do that by doing a follow-up chain. And basically, I like to task myself to be proactive, to come back and look at things when the timing's right. So if for example, with particle health, I needed to follow up with the client about something, or I wanted to make sure that maybe we're going to work with this client to change them to a new plan, and I want to follow up with Philip to find out how things are going. I could create a task for myself to follow up in 3 to 5 days from now and see how that conversation went. So that's kind of how I look at doing those kinds of things. Okay, 5-star Bath Solutions, new bathroom imagery. So this is something that I wasn't necessarily tagged on, but Jack's working with the team. Jeff needs to schedule a shoot, and so I've got a task down here that I need to schedule a shoot with the showroom, and so that's something I'm working on. I'll come back and look at that in my tasks. So I'm kind of going through and just checking things and making sure I'm aware, I'm being responsive, and then I'm going to come back to bigger tasks and bigger projects to work on. So Bio and Illustrated Discovery. Okay. So they're continuing to work on this. And this is something I want to follow up, so I'm kind of going back up in the conversation. Include a very sharp movement. Simple movements. Okay. What did she send over? I'm not seeing a link to it. That's why it's helpful to have a link in here, because so Jeffrell's saying I included a very short movement per scene in the folder. So she says it's in the folder, but that means that I have to come down here, I have to click on this, I have to come into the folder, look for what she's talking about, hope that I have the right folder. Sketches, let's look in sketches maybe. So this is where it gets kind of challenging, is I don't know where she rendered this out at. Here's scene 2. So I guess each scene is put into some movements. So we're just kind of, oh nice, okay, cool. Yeah, this is good. So she's working through some complex scenes, and that's good. Nice. Cool. So she's doing some sketches, and then she's going to refine that from there. So awesome. Okay, this is one that's in my court, so Jeff will follow up on today's meeting. So I have a meeting with the Freedom people, and here's a nice nifty tool that you can use. You can click Add Agenda Item, and so what this does is creates an automation and creates an item inside the agenda section. So I can go there now that it's been created, and what this allows me to do is when I'm jumping on a phone call with a client, I can come in here and see what are the major needs that I have. So this one is the question about the shape of the seal. Can it be something besides a circle? So once I have this conversation with him, I can then mark this as discussed and completed. But for now, it's going to be in the agenda area. So all I have to do is come over to agenda, filter by the Freedom People, and I've got all the items that I need to look at, and I can check them off pretty quick as I go through them and talk and have those questions. In this case too, I can also go back to in context here, so I can come back to my projects really easy, do whatever else I need to there, mark some time if I need to. Okay, so that's just a notification there. Okay, social management onboarding. Okay, so they're talking back and forth, and this is an internal project. And so okay, so this is something that we'll come back to. It's not something that we need to act on right now. It's an internal project. Okay, cool. So Jack's got an update on the thank you page. So I'm just going to look at this. So one thing you can look at is the time of when things were last posted. So usually I've looked at this, you know, within the last couple of days because I'm following this project. And so I can come back up here real quick to see. I added David's comments to the Dropbox file. It's easier for your team to make eyes. Saying cool. So that's great. She did that. I've seen has left comments in the Dropbox file, so we need to go through and review. So now Jack's going through and review. I just wrote them on Zoho asking if they can change the way they're asking for copy updates. Instead of giving me a bunch of comments in Dropbox about the copy, I asked them to simply give us an updated draft of the document they provided us initially. I know this is something that is a huge time suck for. It's a huge time suck for me, and I imagine it's annoying for designers to wade through a bunch of comments that don't pertain to them or represent problems they can't solve. Okay, so that's kind of a process change. That's not a bad thing. So I think that's fine with Jack, and he can be proactive in asking that with the clients. I'm trying to make a better system so that we're not sucking their time as much, and I think that's something that they can do because they have someone on their team that could go through and update those text changes. And he posted a note on Zoho, which is great. Which we also have. I didn't really mention this, but we have a client project management link, which this means this links over to the client's project management tool. So if we have a tool that we're interfacing with them, we can put quick links so we can jump right over to their projects if we're logged into that Zoho account. So that's kind of how we're using this with this client, is that we have one Zoho account, which is their management tool, and we all access that, Mika, myself, Jack, and so we can update their projects there. Okay, next project, writing what you're doing. After months of working with Matisse and learning their brand, collaborating with identity. Okay, this is good. So Matisse main template creation. Okay, so this is something I'm going to come back to. So this is great that Philip did that. And I'm going to come back to write article. And I'm going to put my time or my name in here. I'm going to come back to this on next Tuesday. I'm going to notify myself at 10 a.m. I'm going to do a reminder and remind me, create task. Cool. So that helps me know what I'm doing. And also, I need to note, too, I'm going to take a step back. I'm coming back to this previous project. One of the questions you may have asked is, hey, Jeff, what about marking your time? And this is one of the challenges with project managers. And I'll probably create some specific videos about this. But to that note, there's certain projects that I'm not allowed to mark my time on because of the relationship that I have with that client. But if I was a normal project management and I was working with this client and I was coming in and checking, here's kind of how you do this. So right here, I took maybe a minute to go through, reread some things, kind of understand what's going on, seeing what Jack's doing. I have the choice of marking down 5 minutes, but that doesn't really make a lot of sense. You definitely don't want to mark 1 minute. My typical rule of thumb was I was trying to mark in 10 to 15 minute increments. So if I did take 10 minutes to go through and double check some things, or like if Jack put the comments in there and wanted me to go look through those comments, if I was taking a step that was providing value to the client, I would then track my time. And here's kind of how I like to look at it. Let's say that it was an important step for me to take, but it only took me 5 minutes. And maybe I'll try to see if I can find a good project for this. Okay, let's try this one right here. Okay, so And looks sometimes, just a side note, this can get wonky. This can show the wrong data. So if you feel like it is showing the wrong data, just hit the refresh. Sometimes it just happens with Podio. And so, okay, I've got this here. So Mika just, I've already updated the files now. PPC landing page for each service line. I can send this now. So I don't really necessarily need to do anything with this. But if I was Meek in this case and Lloyd provided a concrete next step, here's a file, then I, as a project manager, would come in here, click on this link, and it's my job to do a review before that goes out. I don't just take his word for it. I go back and I review the previous changes. Obviously, that's done by someone else as well, so it's part of our triple check process. But if I'm coming in here as a project manager and I'm reviewing these things, it's going to take me. Maybe there's only 3 major changes, or maybe there's 5 major changes, and I go back and I double check those changes, and it took me 5 minutes to do it. Well, I would probably log 10 to 15 minutes. Again, my typical standard is I always log at 10 to 15 minutes or more. So let's say it only took me 5 minutes. Well, what that does is that extra 5 minutes, that was probably me going through and scanning a bunch of projects that only took me a couple seconds to look at or a minute to look at. It makes up for that lost time. And it kind of just works out, to be fair. Because again, the client, what they're looking for is they want value. So it is valuable for me to come in and double check this and make sure that things are good. And so we want to charge for that value. That's where you're going to mark that 10 to 15 minute increments or more. And you want to do that so that it's representation of the value you're putting in there. Like if it's one minor change and it took you 1 minute to look at it, that's where I would be like, yeah, that was really simple. I didn't really need to chart. I didn't really need to log my time for that. I'll make it up for that on another one. But you do want to make sure that when you're spending that time going through things, that time does get logged and gets logged accurately. And another way to look at this is, let's say I came in and it took me 17 minutes. My clock went off in 17 minutes to look and double check these changes. I'd probably log 20 minutes. Again, taking it up a few minutes then makes up for the few minutes of going through and doing some standard review of other things or just keeping up with other projects. So that's how I look at it. Again, just to reiterate, I tend to look at from a project management in 10 to 15 minute increments. I don't track that time where I'm just quickly looking at something. I will create a timesheet when I'm providing value to the client. And I usually round up a little bit to make up for the time that was in between. So that's kind of how I would recommend that you look at doing time in this case. Also, just a little side note here too, not to throw Mika under the bus, but I always recommend that when you get something back, you double check it. So right here, Lloyd did this correct. He tagged Mika, which she needs to look at it, and Jessa needs to look at it. Now, in this case, Mika made the decision that the changes were probably small enough that she didn't necessarily need Jessa to double check it. And that's fine. However, you do want to give time for someone outside the project to check it, like Jessa or Joyce or even another project manager. Hey, can you just double check this for me and look at it and help make sure that I'm not missing anything? It provides more value to the client, and then you check it as well, and that way we're triple checking and nothing's going to get through the cracks that is incorrect. So I usually like to put in a statement saying, hey, I double checked this. I don't think Jessa needs to look at it. I'm quite confident that we got all the changes. I'm going to send this over. So that would be a good statement to put in there so we know if the double check was actually done. Okay, that's a great note to make. I'm going to go into some other projects here. So you can see that these are likes. And when you see a like, that's something you can kind of go through pretty quick because that means someone just liked my comment. And so I'm going to kind of skim through these pretty fast. Liked my comment. Order voiceover. Okay, this is I didn't see a script attached, only what appears in the blog article. So this is something I need to take care of right now. So this is an internal project video we're making, and we need to get the script put together. And so this is something that I need to fix. When buying your own filming equipment is more budget friendly, Brian Bassinger case study. So I'm going to make a note here that write script. And I'm going to put this down. Oops. I don't really even need to put my name in it. What am I doing? I'm going to put this due for tomorrow at noon, and I'm going to maybe block out some time on my calendar for that. I'm going to remind myself and create that. Now when you do that, it automatically creates it for yourself. I'm going to come back to this one right here and make mention. Sorry about that. I'll write a script for this. So we can postpone this, or I will maybe check it for now, because it's not fair for Philip to hold on to an overdue task, and so I'm just going to check that, and I can create another task when it comes up to say, hey, can you order the voiceover now? Okay, and then for this one, the other thing that I like to do as well is, and I'll come over to my calendar and I'll make a note here at noon that I want to write Brian Bassinger case study. Now that wasn't the right thing, but I'm going to come here, and this is what I call time blocking. I'm going to come and do this at 12 o'clock. I'm going to do, in 30 minutes, I'm going to take what is written right here. I'm going to use an AI writer, and I'm going to help create a script out of this, so that I've got something that can be spoken by someone else, or I can do it at my next filming. So that's a task I've set for myself, and I've also now time blocked that so that I know what I'm doing and I can be proactive in getting that done. Okay, cool. Again, what I'm trying to do as a project manager is I'm trying to come in and make sure projects are moving forward. That way when someone's stuck, hey, I can't do this. Okay, I'm going to fix this so that I can move forward. Also, this is a case where I didn't do a very good job previously. I sent a task here for Philip to order a voiceover, and I didn't check to make sure there was a voiceover there. That's a mistake on my side. In my case as a project manager, I need to take that time to make sure I'm giving Philip everything that he needs to be successful in that. In this case, I took the lazy route where it's just like, hey, I want to take this off my plate and see if I can use Philip to help me with this, and I didn't take the time to be proactive. So that's a mistake on my part that I'll own up. And so now I need to say, I need to spend some time to write this, get this where it needs to be, make some decisions, and then I'm going to give whoever I work with the next stage or the resources to get this done. Okay, cool. One thing while I'm here, just wanted to look at this real quick. Okay, I think I'm remembering this now. Okay, yes. Okay, that answers my question. I just had some questions about the graphics on this, and I did make note of it previously, and I think so I'm gonna make this clear that Lloyd to make design changes. Yep, so that's pretty clear. So he's probably working on that, getting that in place. I'm gonna try to set a next deadline for this one. He's gonna work on some new graphics. He's got a bunch on his plate, so I'm gonna maybe move this till March, and that way it gives us some time to get this done, and hopefully we have this done by the end of March. That's kind of where I'm at on this. Not a huge priority with this one. Okay, but do you see how I kind of set up a plan? I set up a structure. I know what's going to happen next. I know what needs to happen, and we've set up a plan for getting that done. I've kind of set the time aside for it. That's how you want to be proactive in getting these things to move forward. Okay, perfect. That one's good. That was just again a quick note. So you can see that you can go through these pretty quick. Oh, good. Update the checklist for new hires. Good. This is something I need to come back to. So onboarding checklist. I need to just check something. She completed that now. I want to see, did she add in, and this might take me too much time to look at this, did she add in what I gave her? Yeah, that's not going to work. Let me do this. Socialize video. Just log into the back end real quick. This is where Keeper comes in handy. Log me in. Now I'm going to come back and click on this link. It should take me right to it. Okay, so we need to add something in here. So I'm going to create a new task for this. So this is going to Jessa. I'm going to let her set a due date, and I'm going to come back over here and grab this. So this is something I was uploading last. I was working on this, and so to the so I'm referencing a link that's over here, this Dropbox link, which I instructed before. So she's gonna be notified of this task, and she'll be able to. I will answer her question there. This is one other point that I want to make. Sometimes you don't want to inundate with a bunch of notifications. So all of these turned out to be a notification, and so when Jessa and Joyce clicked on this, they probably had 10 notifications that got taken care of. So they were separate things. In the end, when they click over here, notifications can go away really quick. So if you look at it, you're like, man, I've got so many notifications. It's because sometimes people like me do stuff like this that give you several notifications in one project. So you do want to be mindful of that and try to mitigate it a little bit. And so in this case, like, I could heart her comment. I can make a comment here saying, yeah, I put a task in there, but she'll probably know that. And so I'm going to not make another mention so that she can just come right to the task, and then she'll only have a couple notifications to go through and she'll get it. So be mindful of that when you're going through and do these types of things. Okay, so script for collage video. Awesome. So Jack's working on this. This is something I do want to take a look at. And so this is something that as I'm looking at this, sorry, I haven't done a good job with internal. I should be putting in my time looking at these things. I forget to do them on internal. That's my fault. But you're going to want to do that. You can track your time there. I usually kind of programmed for when I'm working on a client project. So in this case, I'm going to look at this. I'm going to start my timer, and I'm going to track my time on it. The exception is this client. I have a different relationship, so my time doesn't get tracked. Sorry, that's kind of back and forth. But normally, if I was a project manager for this, I would be, okay, I want to look at this, and I'm going to start my time. So I want to look at this one. Darn. So this is a really good point. If you come up to a Dropbox file, let me just try to grab one real quick. Darn. Yeah, come in here. So if you come up to a file and you copy this link up here and share it with someone, it's going to only work if you've recorded, if they're logged into the same account, which is usually not the case. So when you're sharing, you don't want to grab those links. You want to hit this copy share, and you want to actually take this share link. This is the right link that you want to put in there. So I have to let Jack know. Okay, cool. So that's all I need to do there, but that's where it kind of is a bummer with our communication. That's why it's so important that we're putting down, we're using our tools correctly, we're linking to things correctly, and we're that way we're not getting stuck as we're going through things, because now that's going to delay me from actually looking at this. Okay, got notified of this. Why did I get notified? I'm not sure. I don't see anything in my comments. Stop us from using this. Okay, cool. So that's moving forward. That was a note that earlier conversation. Packages video. Good. Ren's working on that. Okay, create a shot list for the specific shoot that we give. Okay, that's good. I'm going to come over to that project real quick because I do have a question on that one. Okay, so this started filming yesterday, and the second day of filming is today. Just want to make sure that's going well. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Yep, that's been completed. And that's a good point. So sometimes when I want to emphasize things, I'll heart it as well. Like, that's a really good point that he brought up. I don't know about you, but for me, I do remember some oftentimes previous conversations. I mean, this was 2 days ago. I remember what Jack was asking about there. And so I can go through this pretty quickly. I guess I'm assuming that you guys can do that as well. I'm not really, I'm trying to find the balance of taking the time to make sure I remember and understand the context versus just remembering. And so that's kind of how I go about doing things. Okay, cool. So she's working on that. Can you set either a task? So this is a good example here where even though this is an internal project, I know Roxanne has time on her plate to do this. And so I've asked her to take this on and work on this. And she says that this is on her plate. So she's doing those. Then I'm asking her to help me figure out next deadline and final deadline. What I'm saying here is either she needs to type out, and she can do it in the description, okay, I think I'm going to do this part, content plus articles. I'm going to have that done by this date. And then I'm going to organize priority level by this date. I'm going to have everything ready to delegate to editors by this date. So she could put together a plan inside here and outline what that would be. And then she could update next deadline. Next deadline would be the next thing that's set to be done, and the final deadline where we should be able to get this all completed at this time. So I'm asking her to help me out with that. If not, I'm going to come back and push that for her. Another way that she could do this is she could come down here and create some tasks for herself and break up these different things and create each task line with a due date for her so that she knows what task she needs to work on. So when she comes to task, she's like, oh yeah, I need to work on this project and do this. So this is part of where I'm expecting Roxanne in this case to really manage this and help out with this. It's on her plate. I've given her the instructions. It's a project she's working on. It's internal. This is where she can get some more hours. And so this is where I have that assumption. And if you guys can't do this, you need to come back and say, help. I am struggling with this. Please help me put together a timeline. And as a project manager, I do that all the time. I can help with this. But the reason why I'm asking her is because I want her to look at what she has on her plates, on her projects, and I want her to say, I can get it done by this time. I can fit this in here. And for her, she can come over and do some calendar and she can come out here and she can look at like, okay, next week, I want to take some time here to work on this. This is where she can time block 2022 video marketing statistics and put this in here and plan to work on that. That's where time blocking comes in really handy. Oops. Okay, cool. Let's go on to the next one. Cool. So these are complete. So now it's in my plate. So I'm going to go through this and decide which ones need to be, where do they say the good, better, best things? I'm going to do them 10 at a time because there's a lot. I keep forgetting. I'm going to try to do this tomorrow by 3 p.m. Not a.m., p.m. Remind myself, create task, and then I'm going to come and set that for right here, review, interviews. Now, also something you can do too, I'm going to take that hour and a half. I can copy this project link. I can put it in here. Let's put the URL. And then when I come to what I need to work on, I can just click that link. It'll open up in Podio, so I don't have to go search for it. And that way it's referenced really well. Now, you can also do some of these things too, like your calendar kind of does this in Podio, but it struggles. It has a lot of extra stuff in there. So that's why I recommend using your own calendar, but they do connect. I mean, they don't connect. These times do connect on this calendar. So you can keep that in mind. Okay, so that's going to move forward on that one. Let's look at this next one. Okay, so there is one. What was that called? Gosh, I'm going to have to come over to this. So in this case, this is what I like to do. I command click on the client. It opens up a new Podio, so I can keep my place. And I'm having a hard time remembering this project. So I'm going to click on projects. And what this does is opens up all the related it basically creates a filter that's going to show me only Bio1 projects. And it's going to go by order of most recent, or what was most recently created versus old. And this really shouldn't be taking this much time. It does show some of that. Anyway, I'm going to switch over to a table format. And I'm just looking for, what was the name of that project we recently did? Resource guides, masters, social media posts, Oceanside, law enforcement torch run. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to come over to this law enforcement torch run. Besides the Atlanta and Scottsdale shoots, are there other shoots that have been done that include other customers, social workers? This is the only one where we have interaction with members and law enforcement. The final video doesn't really have a lot of the interviews. I'm just trying to think about this. Yeah, so what I definitely don't want to do is I'm not gonna just pass the buck to Jack and make his time more consuming. So I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to come into this project and I'm going to go I need to follow up on this too. So I'm going to leave this open for him. Would you want to watch the raw interviews? Your time, but here's the link to the raw footage. Okay, so can I provide a link to him for the raw footage? Absolutely I can. I can do that by coming to the project folder. Coming in here to the raw folder, and here's interviews. I can just copy the interviews, and I can come in here, oh not this one, and I can paste that. So what this does is it allows Jack, who's asked this question, to go to a project that we can actually see the final video here. So this is the most recent video we've done, and then he can also see the raw footage here, because I'm not giving a lot of context here, but we interviewed these different people. Some of these people were law enforcement, some were community members, and they maybe have some statements that would be worth it. These interviews aren't long, and there's not a ton of them, I don't think. Yeah, there's only a handful of them. So it may be worth it for him to go through and do that time. I could assign him a task if this was my management. If I was really in charge of this, I would say, yes, do this. But instead, I'm just trying to partner with Jack to help him get this done. So I'm giving him some ideas and some resources to move forward. I'm being proactive. I'm being helpful. I'm making it easy for him to click on those links. I'm thinking through, if I were in his shoes, would this be a waste of my time? I'm not overly pushy, giving him some options. Again, if I was in charge of this, I would come down and do a task to say work on that. Okay, so I did need to come back and do something here. Okay, so I have something right here where so waiting to hear back from Rebecca. So I'm going to have Mika, well, I could do this real quick. In this case, it's important to communicate with the client so that they know what's going on, especially if we're waiting on someone else. I'm going to come over here just to my email, and I'm going to look up Rebecca Wallace. And I don't think I sent it from there. Let's look if I sent it from the media email. Rebecca Wallace. And let's see. Oh no. Did I send it to the wrong Rebecca? Let's try this again. Rebecca. Oh, sorry, this is my tool that sometimes I have to look at too. Okay, so I sent them on February 13th, and I just sent it to Rebecca Wallace. So I'm going to do this and also include Krista. This is a good technique as a project manager where I'm including Krista because I want to make sure she knows that I reached out to her and that if I can't get a hold of her, Krista can help push her. I also recognize that she's actually in training. I know you're in the bots training, but wanted to follow up on this. Okay, so this is actually one of the benefits. I can actually send this tomorrow. I'm going to do it at 11:30 a.m. I'm going to schedule that. So this doesn't require me to come back and redo this. I can actually schedule this to go out. And I'm going to put a note in Zoho. Oh, I already did that. Sorry. How come I can't add a comment? That's weird. Try this again. Okay. I need her to clarify. I know she's in bots training this week. Hope to hear by Monday. So this is then me saying to the client, this is what we've done. We've been proactive in getting this done. We need to let them know that that's kind of yeah, what's going on with that one. So, okay, so I finished that. Again, this is one of those things where I would track my time. I went and had to follow up on an email. I'm having to do some follow-up. I'm having to review what's going on with this project. I had to go back and update the client's software. So yeah, I would definitely have tracked my time. And if I didn't start the clock on that case, and I was like, shoot, how much time did that take me? I'd go back and just kind of say, well, I'm estimating 5 to 10 minutes, and so I'm going to do a 10-minute slot. Or I'm estimating 10 to 15 minutes, I'm going to do a 15-minute slot. Okay. Oh, good, he's got the link correct now. Okay. Oh, he's just showing me that that's where they're at. Yes, that's right. That's correct. Those are the projects, so I'm not sure what else he needs from me. So we need to do the and then do a version that we hope to capture that will correctly hit the PIM insights. So I'm just clarifying something on that one. Might take me too long to explain. Okay, so Philip's in the middle of managing a film project. That's great. So he's taking care of that. I just wanted to be resourced to check with him. Okay, November shoot. Thank you. I'll move the version of this folder. So I'm just reminding about Jessa being used as well. That, again, I wouldn't track my time on that one. That was 30 seconds of me reviewing and making a comment. So I wouldn't track that. That would just fall into me making up some time elsewhere. Tutorials. Okay, good. That's an internal thing. So that's more of a financial thing. I agree with what he's saying. I'm trying to balance out keeping clients happy as well as making sure that we're billing correctly. This is an old client that's been with us for a while. We've upped our prices. How do we manage this? This is a good point he's bringing up. So I kind of want to put this back. If Philip feels strongly about this, I want to support Philip in the way he feels best. I don't want to come in and overtake it unless he wants me to. Okay. Okay, so that's completed. That's great. Okay, just to clarify something here too. So when you complete a project and it's all done, there's a stage where, in this case, it was an internal project. It's not a client project, but the next questions we need to ask is, should we post this video to YouTube that we can then reference in the future? That's part of the archive process. We don't have to do that. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to do them all. So that's something that, as a project manager, you're going to say, yes, I want to make sure this gets up there so that we can reference this video in the future. You would then task, in this case, Ren, or you can task another team member to create the video file, and also you may choose only to pick one or two out of the videos. Like if we created several different versions of one, you could just say do this version, do the 60-second version. So you want to task that to create a showcase video. That then goes on our social media to say, hey, we made this piece. And then the other question that you want to ask is, should we create a case study about this project? Would it be helpful to show other people how we did this and why we did it the way we did? And would it be valuable to our clients to see what we're doing? And with our bigger projects, yes. For smaller ones, not always. And so in that case, you would then want to set up a time to work with a writer to talk about what happened, how did it go. Use one of our AI tools to help write it if you'd like. But basically, you want to put together those thoughts, and then we'll either have a voiceover film it or voice it with some graphics, or I'll film it. Either way, but we want to create a case study for that. Once everything is done and we don't need these files anymore, we then need to task it to be archived, which means it comes off of Dropbox, gets put on our server. So that's the process you want to go through when you're completing a project, and that's kind of where we're at here right here. I'm telling them to include Jessa and Joyce to archive this when it's ready. But you as the creative team member or as the project manager, it's up to you to make sure that gets archived. This one's completed. Completed good. So yes, I agree. Hold. by the way, you can edit your comments. That's one of the features here. You can't do that in your messages. So that's something that's helpful to do. Is like, oh, I want to clarify that a little bit more. So keep that in mind. It does let people know that it's been edited. Not a big deal, but that's something that's helpful. So if you notice, this is a good example too. Philip and I have had a conversation over the last 15 minutes all about one thing. It's not been based on email. It's not been based in text message, or it's not been based in chatting. It's been based in the context of particle health. So when Philip and I are talking, we can have conversations and solve problems here. Like right here, he's asking if that sounds good to me, and I'm agreeing with him, helping him, giving him what he needs, answering those questions, all within context of what we're talking about, particle health. But it hasn't taken us away. We haven't had to schedule a meeting. It hasn't been overly taxing to have this conversation. It's taken a matter of minutes. That's kind of the communication that we should strive for. And that's the beauty of working with Podio, is that we can keep that within context of what we're talking about. Okay, so script one for collage video. Yes, I'm writing out a script. Same here with Jack. I've been able to have a conversation with him back and forth, and we've been able to reiterate some things. If there ever is a time where it's like we're not understanding each other, we're not able to communicate very well through this, let's jump on a call and talk about that. You can definitely do that. And you can use our whereby tool to get on and schedule a time to do that. And that's helpful. But for a lot of times, I guess what we're seeing is that our mentality shouldn't always be, let's immediately go to a meeting where we spend an hour talking through a bunch of stuff. We want to do meetings when it makes sense, but when it comes to continuing progress along, solving problems along the way, we can do so much of that inside our day-to-day activities and not have to take out an hour chunk that we could resolve in 5 to 10 minutes. So I'm writing out a script that people would hope to weigh in the customers, hoarders, family members. The next step will be to create a questionnaire features. Great. Yep, this is in line with what we're talking about with this client. Okay, good. Okay. Okay, so Brooklyn put this in here. Mika has this set up. And good. Okay, so she's got this task to them to look at and work on. So it'd be great in this case to actually, this is fine here, but then to set up a task to do what they're supposed to be doing. So so sometimes you're working with multiple people. Like here we've got Lloyd and Melvin. Oops. And Lloyd is one of our more senior people. He's a mentor, and so we want to be careful of Lloyd's time. Where yes, it's always nice to go to Lloyd because he can get good stuff done, but we want to use our other team members as well. Melvin's really grown, and he's really fit in well, and so I just want to make sure that they're using their time correctly. So I just made a little bit of a note there. So as a creative team member, know that when you're looking at a project and you say, gosh, my plate's really full. Can I ask Melvin to take this over? That is a great conversation to have. You can absolutely do that. It doesn't come across as not wanting projects. It comes across as keeping the client in mind for what's best for them. Now, there are times where everyone has a lot of projects, and we have to kind of balance that out. And those conversations can go, well, let's adjust time frames so that they can go here or go there. So that's something else to keep in mind. So this is I want you guys to be proactive in your communication, to keep in mind the client and their needs, and find out if someone else might be better to take it over or what the situation is. So keep that in mind when you have projects that come up. Okay, so oh, and he liked that. So cool. Lloyd's on. He liked that comment. Awesome. Okay, so this one is social media posts and concepts. Okay, so this is something she's asking me specifically to look at. Okay, so this is good. Okay, we're good there. Not much to do. I wouldn't track my time. I just was reading, making sure, moving forward with that. That's fine. So, review new video. Good. Ren tasked himself this. So he's setting up tasks. I'm confused. What was that? Review new video. He said that for today, so he's reviewing it. Okay, cool. Why was I tagged in it? Oh, I created this. Okay, so I was tagged and I was notified. Yep. Okay, so I created this for him, and it notified me, and so he's looked at this and he's done a rough cut. I'm going to check it for him. Sometimes as a project manager, you can check off other people's tasks to help them out, but primarily this is Ren's responsibility to manage their his tasks. That's just to kind of help out. If they ask you not to do that, please respect that. But as a project manager, you can definitely try to help keep the plate clean. Okay, I just need to check something. Sorry. Client review. So I'm going to do Mika as well. Okay, so I'm running out of time. This has gone on long enough. I know this is an hour-long meeting, but you can kind of see the process that it goes through. I made 2 tasks here. I'm gonna say, Mika, can you make sure? Can you check that this gets done? A side note, I've probably talked about this in other places, but when we do video shoots, we want to create a clip library. A clip library means we're taking usable footage from that shoot and putting it into the client library so that we can use it in future projects. That also typically includes us going through and pulling out good images out of the footage. We're taking the resolution, usually 4K resolution, and we're making those into JPEGs. We're processing the color. We're editing things that we need to. We're cropping if we need to, and making that image look good and putting it in the file. If you're terrible at doing that, and you want someone else, then task it to someone else. If you're good at only doing, the video, you can have someone else that can do the images. It just depends. I don't really care either way, but that's something that everyone should be pretty well versed in doing. Okay, I'm almost done with some of these projects. Let's keep going on. So that would have been something on the Atlanta shoot that I would have tracked my time on. I probably would have put 15 minutes there. Even though that took me maybe 1 to 2 minutes to just task, that was an important step for me in the process. And again, it makes up time elsewhere, but that's something I would have put in there. I probably also would have taken a little bit more time to go and check and see if it was in the clip library. That's something where, I'm running out of time. But that's something I probably should have been proactive, gone to the clip library, looked and made sure it was there, looked to see if there were stills, and then tasked that. But anyway, that's a mistake of mine. That's just a lack of time on my plate. Okay, so render smaller versions. That's just telling me Ren completed that task. Let's go to these others, hoping to get down to 0. Give Ren link to business builder stuff. Okay, cool. She did that. So she can check that off. This is an internal thing. So I'm going to set a task here. Oops. That's fine. She can do that. So I'm just being proactive and putting a task in here. We're looking to buy some apparel for ourselves. I just want to move this to March because I know from the finance side, March will be a better month than February, so that she can take care of that. Back to the collage video. Jack's doing his time, cool, and so this is the case where two illustrators are looking to work together because they're talking about their plates being full. And so I'm asking them to talk and to come back to me. That's something you should be proactive in taking care of. When I ask you to let me know about those things. Okay. Okay, cool. That's done. Okay, good. Vendor portal website. 5-star franchising. Okay, good. This is. Okay, cool. This is something that's on my plate that I need to take a look at. So, oh shoot, it doesn't work. So I just need to come down here. So I'm not gonna have time. I'm gonna finish up this video, but what my job here is version 1 is to come in and go through these pages and review them, which I'll do, and then I'll send them to the client to also do a quick review. So I'm going to take that offline, but I'm going to put that over here, and I'm going to come back to this a little bit later. One thing I didn't cover, and I will do just in a few seconds, but when, as a project manager, you set up a new project, just a side note, it's primarily your responsibility to go through and fill out most of these things. And I know I covered that in another video, but one thing I want to emphasize is just working together and collaborating. If a project manager forgot to do something or they hadn't put that in there, it is not inappropriate for the creative team to say, hey, what are we looking like timeline wise? When can we do this? I think I could get this done by that date. Being proactive in those conversations really help. I know for me, sometimes I forget to put in a project folder, and that's just because I'm running around trying to do a lot of things, and it's okay. Like it's fine when Melvin made this folder for us. That's very helpful. I'm not saying that that's something that you should be lazy on. I'm saying that if someone forgets something, we don't want to get after each other. We want to help each other and remind each other. It is beneficial. Like there are times as a project manager, I'm going through and I'm having to put some files in a folder, so I have to create that. So that's something to keep in mind as you go through this process. Be proactive, help each other out. I think I've covered most everything when it comes to this. And that was kind of a day and how you go through and manage projects. Oh, the last thing I was going to say, sorry, and this will maybe be saved for another video, but now I've gone through and spent about an hour going through and catching up with items. Now I'm looking at doing the bigger things. So I'm going to come over to my tasks. I'm going to look at my tasks and say, okay, what have I forgotten to take care of that I need to come back to? These are my overdue items. What are due here soon? So I'm looking at my tasks and trying to understand what needs my time today. The next thing I'm doing is I'm going to come back over to projects, and I may look at active projects that are managed by me and say which ones need my attention right now as well. Let me just review those real quick. So there's different ways to look at that material, and I'm sorry I haven't jumped there because I'm jumping around to different places, but again, this is where I can come down to my view, like right here, here's Philip's view, where he can see all of current projects. Here's my view. I've got 71, which is way too many. But like Philip with 18, he can go through and just double check. Okay, I've got 6 top priority. I've got 6 work in progress. These are kind of the back burner. Is there anything I'm missing that I need to come back and review? This is where you can put in your comments. So each one of these projects, you could comment and say what you're doing right now on that. Still doing this, working on this, waiting for this. And that way we're making sure that projects continue to move forward and don't get stuck. So there's different ways to view this material. There's different ways to go about this. Play with these filters and views and try to find the most effective way that you can move forward. All right, thanks for watching.